Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My services to the community as president can be divided into two major sections. One is my service as president of Dar es Salaam Jamaat for 9 years, from 86 to 1995. The second is my service to Toronto Jamaat for 4 years, and then again for 2 years as president of Toronto Jamaat again. Now I will start with the first presidentship in Tanzania. But before I go into this, I would like to give for 2-3 minutes a background of the situation that we were facing when I became the president in 1986. Tanzania got independence in 1961, and later East African community, at that time it was Tanganyika. Later on, East African countries, they joined hands together to form something called what they call East African Common Market Treaty, East African Community, East African Metrology, East African Airways, East African Railways, East African Harbor. So there are a lot of cooperative collaborations between the three countries, Tanganyika, Kenya, Uganda. In 1964, January, there was a revolution in Zanzibar, and in April 1964, Tanganyika and Zanzibar joined together to become the United Republic of Tanzania. In 1967, Tanzania decided to go along and establish a policy and ideology of socialism brought in from China. It had a lot of benefits for the country, and on the books it looked like a very, very noble thing to do, but in practical it was almost impossible to implement. Now, following this, what happened is, because they wanted to consolidate everything, they wanted to take away the power from the few people, they wanted to give that power to the government. So government started nationalizing all the things. They nationalized banks, they nationalized insurance companies, they nationalized farms. Later on, they came to nationalize education system, and all schools were nationalized, all hospitals were nationalized. And in 1971, early 71, government decided to nationalize all the houses that were developed by the community. Either there could have been Indian owners, there could be African owners. They had developed over 3 or 4 or 5 generations, and all of a sudden, one fine night, government decides that if you have 2 apartments, then 1 apartment is being taken over by the government. If you have 2 apartments and you are not living in those 2 apartments, then both your apartments were nationalized. So what happened between 1967 up to 1983, there was no development of the country. The country's development suddenly collapsed because everything was in the hands of the government. People did not have confidence to build, to put their money, to put their resources there. And there was a money flight which was going out, corruption had increased in the country, and country was in havoc. Now for every time there was a problem, they would try to find a scapegoat in somebody or the other. 1983 brought a climax to this thing when they brought what they call Economic Saboteurs Act. They passed in the parliament. So anybody, let's say you are found with 1 television in your house, which you did not bring through legal, as it is through legal channel, there was no way you can bring. Or if you had 1 Colgate was not manufactured in Tanzania, so naturally it was coming from outside. We used to get some Chinese toothpaste, but if you brought a Colgate without any document, 1 tube of Colgate could put you in behind bars. So our community members and a lot of people, both from the Indian community, and it was not targeted to the Indian community, it was targeted to the rich people, whether it is African or Indian or whatever. So 1983, I'll give you 2 examples. One of our international brothers, he had a motor car parts business, very big business. So when this thing happened and they gave us immunity for 1 week, and he surrendered, he loaded truckloads of these spare parts and he took to the police station and he surrendered. And then the police, they just took that, and then they came to his house. They looked at his store and they found nothing. There was nothing there. They went to his house. Unfortunately, or through some other thing, he had kept aside about 500,000 shillings, which is worth $1,000 of Tanzanian shillings. And they say, where did you get this? Do you have receipt for this? Do you have? You cannot be accountable. So naturally, there was no accountability in that time. He was imprisoned for over 9 months. Now all these people, they went to the prison and there was no judgment coming in favor of them or against them. Just dragged on till after 9 months the government realized they made a mistake, so they released everybody. This gentleman, he was released after 9 months, and then I think after 2-3 months he died, poor guy. He was a young man, he was a dynamic community member, and he suffered this thing. So this is just one of the
What was his name?
His name was Ramzan Nathu, of Nathu Auto Parts. He's a fine gentleman, very contributing to the community, young man, dynamic businessman, and suddenly the community, the country lost unnecessarily this person. So there are hundreds of examples like that where people. So a lot of people left the country. But what happened is this economic, the event of economic sabotage, which lasted about 6 to 9 months, was a climax to the socialist policy that the government had introduced. Now, after putting all this pressure, putting everybody in jail, they could not see any success. So what happened is government had no choice but to decide into abandoning this policy of socialism the way it was being taken. So 1984-85, by Act of Parliament, they decided to abandon this policy, and they brought in policy which they call liberalization. This itself implied that socialism was not liberal, was more controlling. Now by that time, the government, there was a lot of corruption in the government, the services were substandard. So this was 1985, and I became the president in 1986, January. So you can imagine the time I came, 20 years prior to that, there was not one more school built in the country. 20 years of no development in the country. 20 years we had not seen any housing being developed. 20 years we had not seen any new hospitals being developed. In fact, schools, there were schools that were reduced. So some of the schools, government nationalized, and they gave it to the army to have their offices there. So when I became the president, we had dire need of social services. Our community, Dar es Salaam Jamaat community, at that time, 1986, if my memory bears me right, we had 2 births per week. So 110 new children per year. So we were thinking 110 children per year. So in 7 years, we will need 110 student school, primary school. After 5 years or 6 years or 7 years, he would be ready to go to school. So we had no school. There was no government school. There was only one English medium school in the whole of Tanzania, apart from the international school, which was for foreigners. But for local, for children of ministers and all that, they had only one. And this school was so substandard that you would not want to send your children there. There were 90 children in the classroom. So it was very, the teaching staff was substandard. Everything was run down. So we came at a situation where the community needs were very high, and there was shortage of everything. There was lineup for every product, and there was big corruption in that thing. And I came as a young president of the community, and I saw an opportunity. There was need for the community to build schools. There was need for community to grow. And it was almost wajib on us to start a school at that time, because otherwise all our children would go without education. There was no way they would get education. So amongst them, in my 9 years of leadership as president of Dar es Salaam Jamaat, there were 4 or 5 major projects that we initiated. I'm just going to brief each one of them in simple words. One was education. Within 7 days of my becoming the president, we decided we want to start a school, and we started a school. They did not allow us to start a school as a private school, because it all were nationalized under Act of Parliament, so it had to be repealed. So they allowed us to establish what we call Al-Muntazir Islamic Seminar. They said, you establish a seminar and you can teach whatever you want to teach. So we started this, what we call As-Sadiq Islamic School. It was started in the 2nd week of February 1986. Now that school, the first classroom, we had the first classroom in our madrasa. We received 7 applications. We had 30 seats. We received 7 applications. People said this school will close within 3 months. There's no way it's going to last. And they did not get any place, any other schools, so they came there. So 7 of them came. Within 4 years, in 1990, we had 4 classrooms per grade. For Form 1, we had 4 classrooms with 35 children each, so there were 140 capacity. We received 800 applications. So this community, this school grew. Today, as I speak, we have 5 campuses in Dar es Salaam with over 3,500 children. We have over 350 teaching and other staff. We have multi-million-dollar worth of capital projects for these schools and multi-million-dollar surplus in these schools. These schools, as it stands, there are over 300 to 400 students who have graduated from these schools studying in colleges and universities in various countries in the world, including Canada, America, Malaysia, and all the places. So Al-Muntazir Islamic Seminar played a major role in providing education at a time when there was no facility. This is one thing. Today, Al-Muntazir School has got a college. They have got some college activities and education facility. Alhamdulillah. And later on, after 2 years, we started a primary school. But they needed extra permission from the government, and we were able to do that. I think this is one of the premier projects of Dar es Salaam Jamaat, which we are very proud of. The second thing is housing. The housing need when I became the president was so dire that we bought a house in the outskirts of Dar es Salaam, in the Africans area there. Ilala, it's called Ilala. About 5-7 kilometers from Dar es Salaam. We bought 5 apartments, small apartments, 1.5 bedroom apartment, very congested, and we received 68 applications for that. We had standing 250 applications when we didn't have even one apartment with us. So we embarked on housing project, and we did it through various means. One is we purchased all houses in Kariako and other areas. We demolished and built into structures. Also, we encourage our community members by giving some provision to them to move from Dar es Salaam to go to upcountry places. Also, we encourage some rich guys in the community, say their relative, their distant cousin or somebody, their distant relatives would be difficulty of finance, of accommodation. We would encourage them to do sile raham, to get them accommodation. And in 1992, when I stood up on the day, one of the Kushalis, I addressed the community. I feel very proud to say that I said on that day that we have solved 80% of the community housing needs. Of course, housing needs increases from time to time. And Alhamdulillah, after that, the new leadership that came, Asghar Bhai and Anwar Bhai and Pyarali Bhai and Shiraz, they continued in developing this Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam Jamaat is a beacon of our community. Has taken a lot of stride. It has been developing over the last many years, has seen development after development after development. So every leadership has seen, and perhaps it may be good to interview even Asghar Bhai and Shiraz and all the things. So this was another thing. The third project was hospitals. We built our Ibrahim Haji dispensary. We converted it into a hospital, and it is a full-fledged running hospital. And it is serving the community. It's serving a lot of that thing. And these are all for the masses. It's not for Indians only or Khojas, Ishnashis only. It's serving. Even the school is serving the masses only because Al-Sadiq Islamic, Al-Muntazir Islamic School is a seminary. So secondary school, we cannot take non-Muslims. So we are taking 30% Africans, 70% our community members. In the primary school, it was 70% our community members, 30% were from other community, including some Indian communities. So this is the thing. The fourth project which we initiated, this was not really a project, but it was something what we call public relation with the Africans, public relation with the grassroots, public relation with the politicians, with the people in the mosque, with the sheikhs in the mosque, the imams of the mosque. We believe on two things which we propagated. One thing is it's our duty to propagate the religion of Ahlul Bayt al-Islam to the Africans, and we had to do our duty to reach out to them. Bilal Muslim Mission was already taking a major activity in that, under leadership of Fida Hussain by Hamir and Maulana Said Akhtar Rizvi. So they did a wonderful job, and we participated with them in helping these things. Also, another thing we said, okay, this is the country where we have lived. Our fathers, we have 3-4 generations we have lived in Africa. And unfortunately, sometimes we didn't treat our African brothers in the manner that we should have treated them, or in the manner that Islam teaches us to treat them as our equal human beings. Sometimes we did not treat them well. I'm not saying always. Some families treated their servants and their friends, Africans, in a very nice way. But so we said, okay, we need to reach out to these people. But a lot of them are very poor people, Africans. So our community, we decided to reach out to these people by helping their mosques, by helping their schools, by helping their hospitals. And this was the major, it played a major part in our relation with the neighbors. So much so that we established an excellent relation with even the politicians, even the president of the country. He visited, in fact, when Aga Hui, when he passed away, we advertised in the newspaper, our Rahbar has passed away, and we are in the SOG. We got a message from the State House that the president would like to visit the mosque to pay his condolences. The president of the government of Tanzania, Alhaji Ali Hassan Mwinyi, he visited our mosque without us telling him to visit. He himself preempted this thing. They came to the mosque, and he wrote a very, very nice eulogy for our marhum Ayatollah Al-Kui. And we had a lot of other government ministers. We had sheikhs, we have mayors, we have a lot of people from the grassroots. They felt to come very near our community. So we built a lot of relation, and I'm sure the relation has continued to be built, and this is the way to go. So this is as far as Dar es Salaam Jamaat is concerned.
Now we stop a little bit. Okay.
Now, to develop all these projects like school, housing, and Jamaat social services, we had to acquire a lot of plots and other things. So there was an aggressive effort done during my presidency. We did aggressive effort into acquiring more pieces of land. We bought some old houses in Kariako and demolished and built high-rise, not high-rise, about 6-7 floor buildings, and in the process we bought, like 1986 we had about 10 to 12 properties. Jamaat had 10 to 12 properties. In 1995, as I was leaving, Jamaat had 68 properties. Now some of the properties were nationalized by the government, and we had, through efforts through our representation in the government, we were able to acquire back the properties. Some of the properties belong to Jamaat, some properties belong to Africa Federation, some properties belong to Faize Panjatani of the group that were organizing Ziyarat, and all these and some of the properties belong to Tanganyika Education Council. Now Tanganyika Education Council was an organization formed in late 1950s to take care of about the boarding house in Dar es Salaam. Now, as the community was growing, boarding house was being used as boarding house, and later on there were no boarders there were no students, so it was converted into a nursery school, and then ultimately into a secondary school, into a full-fledged school. This is one of the campuses. Now, one thing very interesting that I want to mention here, during the course of this thing, while our land was nationalized by the government of Tanzania under the leadership of President Nyerere, this, God had it in such a way that we got all this land back after fully. Now, one of the sections, good 70% of our land was given to the Korean embassy, who were like socialists. They came there. These are North Koreans. They were given this piece of land by the government. They took it from us and they gave to North Korea. North Korea developed a full-fledged complex there. So in end, when I was living 1995-96, I got a call from Asgava. I can see these people have offered us this piece of land at $1.6 million. I think that was a throwaway price. We just bought it, and they had taken our land. They returned it with, I think they returned it with all the interest, and the building was we got a good sized building there. We bought some neighborhood houses. The land was not enough. So what do we do? On the other hand, there is a big sea, the Indian Ocean. So we put a plan to reclaim the land near to the boarding house, and we did about 4 or 5 acre reclaim land near the boarding house. This is also one of the very prime projects of the community, and I feel very proud to be associated as president at that time for this project. The project was done 90% on voluntary basis. The labor force, the people who participated, the people who were taking care of this, they participated on voluntary basis, and this project cost us less than 5% of what it would have cost us in normal circumstances. So, particularly, I want to mention a couple of names like Iqbal Dinani. There was Shokat Remtula. These are young guys. They came forward to say, okay, they had a group of 20 people. We will participate. We have some tippers, and we will put one of our tippers here every day. And they were volunteers. They were doing that. Within 3 months, they reclaimed all the land. So we have a 4 acre. Now, if you go to Dar es Salaam, you will see a swimming pool built now on that. You will see a football ground, a walking track. All this is in that reclaimed land. You wouldn't know that this is a reclaimed land. In the periphery, we planted coconut trees and other things. So these are some of the initiatives that we have taken. Like I said, we had only 10 to 12 properties. By 1995, we had 68 properties, and these were very prestigious properties, and they were utilized very nicely by subsequent leadership of our community. Now, leaving Dar es Salaam aside, Dar es Salaam Jamaat played a major role of a leadership for all the Tanzania Jamaats. Because there was shortage of schools, most of the parents had no choice but uproot themselves and come to Dar es Salaam, or send their children to Dar es Salaam, where they would be staying in Penges, which was expensive, and schools were still not available. They were accommodated. We were giving special treatment to our upcountry students who were coming, for them to be accommodated at Al-Muntazir school, particularly because these students had already crossed 1, 2, 3 years of their age without getting adequate education. So when they came there, they were given tests, and we realized that most of these students could not sit in the same classroom as similar age children. So we had to do extra effort in bringing these people up to par, and then we got them. So Jamaat had initiated a lot of initiatives to help the upcountry people. Now, a lot of parents, they uprooted themselves from our towns in upcountry places, and they came. Now, I'll mention a few towns and just give you indication of the strength of our community. We had about 15 towns where we have mosques or imam baras. In the southern region, we had Lindi, we had Mingoyo. Mingoyo is a small village near Mtwara, about 10 kilometers from Mtwara, but it has a masjid, a beautiful masjid on the shore of Indian Ocean. It's a small masjid, and it's been taken care of. There are about 5-7 families who stay there, but they are very regular in the mosque, and they do all the activities. And Lindi has got a big mosque. At the peak of the time, Lindi had a population of about 1,500. Today they are about maybe less than 150. No, I wouldn't know this. But Lindi was very bustling, booming town, because it was the headquarters of the southern region. And all Songea, Lindi, Tunduru people used to come to Lindi for their education. Myself, I studied 4 years in Lindi. I was at our Ishnashi boarding house. We had a boarding house. Jamaat had a lot of properties. They had boarding house, they had mosque, they had imambara, they had Musafir Kano. They had some properties which they had given out for rent. Lindi was a bustling community, and it had a lot of activities. Unfortunately, because of political reasons, the city went down and our community has dwindled. Now then there is another town, if you go further west, there is Tunduru, Matemanga, there is Masasi, Mingoyo, and then Songea. Now Tunduru, we have a mosque. Matemanga, we don't have a mosque. Masasi, we don't have a mosque. There are other small towns, they don't have a mosque. Only the people, they come during high days, during Muharram or Ramzan, they come to either Lindi or to a center near there to participate in the religious activities. But all our community members, be it Masasi, Mingoyo, Tunduru, wherever, even if there is no mosque, our community members, even there is 4 families, they would get together on Thursday night and recite the Komel, recite Yasin, and maybe one of them would recite Marcia and participate in the religious rituals. Then there is this town called Songea. Songea has a nice mosque, has a Musafir Khanu. Songea has a Imam Waro. It had a good sized Kabristan. It had a school. From late 1950s, we had a school, our Jamaat school, which was called Haidari Primary School. Imagine a community with a population of 50 families or 70 families. They established a full-scale primary school. So our parents, they give a lot of importance to education, and this is a message to ourselves, and it's a message to our next generation, that education is something that kept us together. That education is something that was propagated by our religion, and our forefathers, they followed, and this is the result we are seeing today. So there was a primary school there. The other Jamaats were Dodoma, Singida, Kigoma. There was Jamaat in the north, Bukoba, Mwanza. These were big Jamaats. Bukoba, Mwanza, Arusha, Moshi, Tanga. These were fairly large Jamaats, and they had a population of between 500 up to 1,200. Tanga was, I think, the second biggest Jamaat after Dar es Salaam. Then Arusha, then Mwanza, and Bukoba, and Moshi. On all these centers have their own mosques and centers. Now, as Dar es Salaam Jamaat president, one of the Dar es Salaam Jamaat, one of the key element was to help the upcountry Jamaat in their development, either of religious activity facilities or of education or in any social services that we could help. Now, Morogoro Jamaat at that time was just coming up. There were almost less than 10 families there, and we saw in Morogoro as a potential Jamaat. Morogoro is 90 miles away from Dar es Salaam, and we say we must support Morogoro Jamaat, and maybe time will come when a lot of our community members will go back to upcountry, but Morogoro Jamaat would be is a very lucrative city. Potential of business is good, and most of our community members are petty traders. They are traders. We may call them businessmen, but really they are traders, and it would be a good place for them to develop that. So we were encouraging Morogoro Jamaat to, now I'll mention a few things about Morogoro Jamaat. Morogoro Jamaat in 1986 came to Dar es Salaam Jamaat, and they said, we worked together to buy a plot. At that time we got offer. I was invited by one Momin by Maroom Mohamed Ali Kara. He told me that he had some funds, about $50,000 to give to, he wanted to put in a development of a mosque. Now I said our mosque is fully developed and we don't need it at that time. And of course we were helping a lot of Sunni masjids also, but his intention was to put that money in our mosque. Allah's blessing, this Morogoro project came forward, and they bought a piece of land. Actually, Dar es Salaam Jamaat, they bought together with Morogoro Jamaat this piece of land, and then we said, okay, we want to build. Now they were saying, okay, where will we get the money from? I said, it's Allah's house, and Allah will provide this money. And I had in mind this Muhammad Ali Bhai. I approached him. He said he was happy, and the next day he was coming to Jamaat office. Bana, take your money, take your money, take your money. And so we sent the money to World Federation. as Amanat, and later on, as Morogoro Jamaat developed, prepared the plan, we started the mosque. The mosque project is a beautiful center that we built there, and I remember during the foundation ceremony, we had the president of and the vice president and secretary of Africa Federation. President was Habib Bhai Mulji, and Mohammad Khalfan was the vice president. Habib Virani was the secretary, and Maulana Durul Hassan and others, and including this Marum Mohammad Ali Baikara. We went there for the foundation ceremony, and he was very reluctant to even come forward for this ceremony, but Habib Bhai insisted, and he obliged. 2 years later, the mosque was being completed. So I approached, after consultation with Morogoro Jamaat, they said we should give him an honor to the foundation, the opening ceremony. And Muhammad Ali Bhai, I remember very vividly, he said, Ali, I have given this money, I don't want to come forward, I don't want any appreciation, I've given, it was an amanat, I had intended to give to the mosque, and I've given it sincerely, the money has gone, and let's forget about it. I'll come there as a participant, not as somebody to come and do the foundation opening ceremony. And Sayyid Maulana said, Akhtar Rizvi, he personally came with me to request him, and he forced him that you should do that honor. So he reluctantly agreed, but he didn't want to come. And we can plan anything, but Allah has His own plans. Few days before the opening ceremony, Muhammad Ali Bhai, he got a massive heart attack, and he could not participate in this opening ceremony. The day of the opening ceremony, after 2-3 days, I went to him. His children had come, naturally, because he was sick, so his children participated. I went to him and showed him the pictures of the ceremony. He was so excited, so happy that the mosque was completed. I told him, Muhammad Ali Bhai, you are blessed because you contributed this money in your lifetime. The masjid was started, foundation was done, and now it's completed, and people have started praying there. Inshallah, you will recover from your ailment, and then we will go together, and we will go and pray in the mosque. And he was so happy, so excited. I can see the twinkle in his eyes even today when he was telling me this thing. And shortly on the same day that I met him, I reached home. I heard that he has passed away. He expired. Our community saw 3 major exoduses in East Africa. One was, this was out of the country exodus. Of course, there was migration from upcountry to the cities, and people were coming. But there were 3 major exodus that happened that uprooted almost whole community from one location to another. One was in 1965-66 from Zanzibar. After the forced marriage incidents of Zanzibar government, our community were very scared. They were not feeling safe, and especially during the revolution and after that, some people faced problems. Even there was an incident where in the mosque they were shooting, and one person had died in our Shia masjid on one of the holy nights. So what happened is they decided to otherwise Zanzibar was such a nice place that nobody would have wanted to move out of that place. Our community was well entrenched in Zanzibar. They were successful business people, they were educated, they were people who got both the worlds. They got education, as well as social life, as well as religious, that thing. So it was the best place to settle, and yet they had to move out from there. So there was a major exodus from Zanzibar. Naturally, they came to Dar es Salaam. Now, Dar es Salaam Jamaat played a major role. I was not in Dar es Salaam at that time. I was in Songea. It was in 1964. I was in Songea and Lindi. So Dar es Salaam Jamaat, they played a major role in settling these people or giving them transit to move onwards. I was at the boarding house. I did my A level at Aga Khan Boys School. It was called Tambaza's Boys School. At that time, I was staying at our boarding house, and some of the families of Sayyids from Zanzibar, they came by thousands, by boats. They came to Dar es Salaam, and they were given shelter by Africa Federation, and they were put in the boarding house. So boarding house, one of the wings was moved. We were moved to another wing, and those Sayyid families were accommodated in that boarding house. So hundreds of people, I think literally thousands of people, moved from Zanzibar to Dar es Salaam, and later settled either in Dar es Salaam or moved on to Dubai, in India, and Pakistan, and Europe, and America. The Islam Jamaat played a major role in settling these people, and naturally they brought a lot of resources to us because they were educated, they were religiously more knowledgeable, and they were good participants in the community activities. So they brought a lot of what we call ronak in the mosque, Dar es Salaam mosque. By Zanzibaris, they come into Dar es Salaam and they mingle with our community in a very nice way. So this was one thing that happened. And Zanzibar. So Zanzibar saw this exodus from Zanzibar. In the process, Zanzibar, we had two big jamaats there, and a bustling center suddenly became a very repressed center. But today, if you see throughout the world, all the people who have hailed from Zanzibar, they are spread all over the world with very prominent positions in both Jamaat, in the business circle, in the professionals, and whatever. But again, I'm saying Dar es Salaam Jamaat and Africa Federation, they played a major role in trying to help our community settle there and give them a transit position. The second exodus happened with Uganda, Idi Amin. Now, I'm not too familiar with this thing. I was at the university at that time. Perhaps there are other people who are better equipped to give you information on Uganda, that thing. The third exodus that happened was from Somalia. Our Somali Jamaat, our community from Somalia, they were very independent of us. They were running their institutions themselves. They had connection with Italy and Pakistan. Unlike us, we had connection with England because we were Anglophone. They were ruled by Italians, so they had connection with Italy and Pakistan. They did not need the support or connection with Africa, so they thought. In 1990 January, Habib Mulchi, I think he was a very, very visionary leader of the community, and I was blessed to have get an opportunity to work with him for 10 years. He was the chairman of Africa Federation at that time, one of the most sincere and yet dynamic leader that I have come across. Habib Bhai, he took a delegation to Mogadishu, and I was fortunate to be in that delegation. We were about 12 of us. We went there, we saw our community was very well settled there, and so Habib Bhai told them that you don't necessarily have to have any Amari Jarur na bhi hoye ne, so you should keep connection. Let's keep connection. Even if you don't need us, even if we don't, because we are part of a family. Like different Jamaats, we don't know what benefit, when you would need, who you will need. So it will be good for us to keep connection. So he initiated, and after 3 months there was Africa Federation conference in Nairobi. This was the first conference where Somali delegation, about 7 or 8 people, came to the conference, and they attended the conference, and they were so impressed with the brotherhood, with the manner in which the conference was conducted, and with the development of Africa Federation, just by uniting different Jamaats together. What progress they were making, these people were so impressed that they said they would want to join Africa Federation. Now what happened then? 6 months later, we got an SOS from Mogadishu that we are in crisis, there is civil war in Mogadishu, and we have left our homes, and thousands of us, we have taken refuge in the mosque. And one lady has died by bullet wound in the mosque, and she has been buried in the mosque compound. They couldn't take her to the graveyard because it's too dangerous. They were living in civil war. They were surviving on one banana and a cup of coffee per day. So we got an SOS. So Habib Mulji Marum Habib Bhai, he initiated this venture under very aggressive guidance and aggressive persuasion of Sajjad Rashid to take this rescue mission and go and rescue our community brothers from Mogadishu. So under leadership of Habib Mulji, 3 jamaats, Nairobi, Mombasa and Dar es Salaam, they committed that we will rescue these people, and they participated in this rescue mission, and it was initiated. This mission was undertaken by Sajjad Rashid and his key volunteers. Anwar Rajpal, he played a major role in providing us with the government support from the Pakistan embassy, because when you send a ship to send a rescue mission, there has to be a flag on that ship. And while Kenya government, they gave us a ship with a capacity of about 600-700 people, where we actually brought in 1,000 people, but they didn't have sleeping under very tight sitting. We brought them there. While Kenya government, they provided us with the ship at a cost. There was no country willing to give us a flag. We couldn't go in no man's land without a flag. And Pakistan government, through efforts of Mustafa Gokal and Anwar Rajpal, we got this permission from Pakistan government that they will give us this thing. And Italian embassy at that time offered us 2 navy ships to escort us and give us protection. Our community volunteers with this ship, they went to Mogadishu, and we picked about 1,000+ people from there, and we brought them to Mombasa. The day we came to Mombasa, it was 16th January 1991. I vividly remember that day, 6 o'clock in the morning, me, Habib Bhai, Ahmad Daya, Hassan Ali Bhai, Jaffrey, and I think one other guy, we went to Dar es Salaam airport, we took a charter, we went to Mombasa to receive this ship when it was coming. It was an emotional moment that I have never experienced in my life. This is a very unique, where you have rescued 1,000 people of our community who were stuck in the mosque for 10 days. Some of them had gone on depression. So much so that, because these people underwent 3 months of civil war, and then they went 10 days of being trapped in the mosque there, and with bullets going around like that. There was so much depression that 6 to 7% of the people who came there, they were mentally what we can say, challenged. So at that time they landed in Mombasa. Dar es Salaam Jamaat, Nairobi Jamaat, we came forward saying, okay, we will settle these people in Dar es Salaam, in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in upcountry. Arusha Jamaat, they came out with a very positive scheme that all the people who are retired, who are sick, who are these people who have some problems, they will come to Arusha and they will settle, and community will take care of them. So good number of families, but I think 70% of the people, they came to Dar es Salaam. The rest, they went to Nairobi, Arusha, Dodoma, Singida and other places. There's some families who went to Lindi also, and they settled there. Ultimately, over time, in 8-10 years, almost 60-70% of them have moved on to go to England and the West, and some of them have gone to Pakistan and India. Some are in Europe also, in Holland, and some in Italy. So this was perhaps the single most biggest project of our community that every community member is proud of. On 16th January, there was this Operation Desert Storm, where they attacked Saddam Hussein for the first time. The US Army, they sent an army to remove Saddam Hussein. But this was done on 16th January. Had it been on any other day, our rescue mission would have been in the headline in the world. But it was just overshadowed by this action of Iraq. But nonetheless, this was one of the projects that the community will be proud of for many years to come, many generations to come. That we picked community members, thousands of them, right from, like you say, Sina Modamati lokane kaila chhe. Then, again under leadership of Sajjad Rashid, we sent 2 aeroplanes to go and pick up, because there were some people who were not in the mosque. And suddenly they came after 3-4 days from somewhere, from other town. They came to the mosque and they said, where is the whole town? Where have our people gone? And they were seeing all of them, nobody was there. So I'm very proud to say that I was very much involved in the planning, in this thing, and Dar es Salaam Jamaat was actively involved in this thing. However, in the execution, Sajjad Rashid gets 100% credit, and his volunteers. There were some 13 volunteers who went there, including some ladies, our community ladies. They went right in the war zone in Mogadishu when bombs were being shot at the ship. They went there, they rescued, they safely brought our people on board, and they brought them to Mombasa. This is an achievement that I think, alhamdulillah, I think it was, God was with us. Otherwise it is not possible for any community of this size, let alone a country, to do that rescue mission. A community of our size to have undertaken this project, I think there is no words to praise this thing. It's simply out of the world, and it's only through the blessing of Allah and the shelter of our Charda Masumin that we were able to achieve this mammoth task. So these people, they came, they settled. Now the situation, I will come to situation about in Tanzania. According to me, in my feeling, that this in 1992, I went with Mullah Asghar to India. We visited all the towns. Now my assessment was this: there 50, 70, 80 years back, our parents, they moved from Kutawda to Maua to Bhavnagar to Mumbai. Then they took the boat. They came to Dar es Salaam. They settled in Dar es Salaam or Bagamoyo or Lindi or Songea. They had enough money to make a passport, to have their clothes. They had the money to board the ship and to come and settle in these places. What happened to this community in the last 70 years that we saw when we went with Mullah Asghar? People, if they ate today, they didn't know what they were going to eat tonight. They didn't have money. They don't have money to eat even for one good meal a day. They become very poor. What happened? What happened to this community? Some of them are our first and second cousins in India. They are in a situation where I started thinking, if my father, my grandfather did not move out of India, they went to Africa, our position would be similar to these people. What is the difference? Then I realized that there is 3 things. There is education, there is the community, and there is the organization to come out of this problem. And these people were in the vicious circle because they didn't have a strong community with a lot of cohesion, who could think for them, who could provide them, and they didn't have education, so they are poor. And because they are poor, they cannot organize. Because they are poor, they can't get education, so they are in this vicious circle. Similar thing could happen in Dar es Salaam. I addressed the community in Dar es Salaam in 1992 after I came back from there, and people actually got angry at me. Why do you give negative this thing about the community? I said, if we don't go into education, if we don't provide education to our children, of the sort of education that we have to provide, and high education for them, our community's position in one generation will be worse than what it is in India. Because in India we were living amongst Indians. Here we are living amongst Africans who have always been suppressed. Now they are coming up, they are getting educated, their children go to schools, even the poorest of poor farmer, he wants to send his child to the school. They get education. So my competition is with the African child. I'm uneducated, he's educated. I'm jobless, he's jobless. We go to find a job. I'm uneducated, he's educated. I will work on $1,000 salary, he will work on $100 salary. I'll work 8 hours and then I get tired, he works 15 hours, he's not tired. And his demands are less. And the factories are owned by his brothers. You think who is going to get the job? He will get the job. When I address the community that this is going to happen to our community if we don't educate our children. Because I wanted to impress a lot on the importance of education and of the support that the community should give to Al-Muntazir Islamic School and send the children for higher education. And every opportunity I got, I hammered on the public's mind about education, 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 education. So what happened? I was telling the reason. Of course, I was very negative. I portrayed a very gloomy picture. So some of the leaders of the community, they were not happy with it. They upset and they said, how can you? I said, I only hope this doesn't happen. But hey, if we don't educate our children, what's the difference between me and my third cousin, my second cousin who is sitting in India? What's the difference? My father was there 70 years back. I could have been there and in the same situation. What's that? Just because I came to East Africa, I'm superior to him? No. It's because we got opportunity to do some trading business. Now, time has come for us to move on and get our children educated so that we are able to come out of this. We don't want to continue staying in the rat race where there is corruption and this. Today, if there is a corrupt person, he can make millions of dollars. But that money, what use is that money? Which is no education, which is, we have to protect our assets. But education will protect us. Based on this, I believe Dar es Salaam Jamaat has taken major steps towards sending our children for higher education. Both Al-Muntazir Primary School and Al-Muntazir Islamic Seminary Secondary School, they played a big role. Then our children go to colleges and universities. Unfortunate. Now I don't know if it's unfortunate, but because of this thing, a lot of people, most of our students who come to the Western world, they, after getting educated, they settle in the Western world. And we can't blame them for, and I think we should encourage them to settle here because they will upgrade themselves, they will be having better life, and they will be able to provide better assistance to their parents. So they came to the Western world and they settled, alhamdulillah, in Canada, America. They have good jobs, they and this is why we see so much development in Toronto Jamaat. But then our African Jamaats, what is happening is they are losing the population. The population is going down. The Dar es Salaam Jamaat is a unique example, is a unique thing, but Mombasa, Nairobi, they are losing population there. Now this is a question that we should pause and we should think deeply about this thing. What needs to be done? Is there anything that we need to do? How do we take care of this exodus? Whether we should encourage our community from Gujarat or other Shias from other places to come and settle in Tanzania, like our parents were encouraged by their cousins or their friends to come to Tanzania. Similarly, now Tanzania, our community is dwindling. So one of the ways is to encourage our brothers from India, Pakistan, who are probably in the not very good situation, or Pakistan, where there is so much massacre of Shias. We can encourage our Pakistani brothers to come and settle in Tanzania and live a peaceful, progressive life there. That's but this question is a very wide question. It needs a lot of discussion, and there are pros and cons of every aspect of this thing, and it should be encouraged. I think there should be discussion on the community level on this thing, either Africa Federation level or even Jamaat level. There has to be a discussion on whether we should participate, and if we participate, to what extent we participate, or what are the various avenues. And I'm not talking only about Tanzania, particularly East Africa came because the population of our community, we have big centers, but population has dwindled drastically. So we want to see what are the avenues where we can increase the population. But Western world, while the population is increasing, it is a place of opportunity. For example, Canada is a place of opportunity. We should help our brothers in India, Pakistan, who wants to come to Canada and settle and also participate in the development of Canadian society and live a decent life, peaceful life, where they participate in the community, they participate in the grassroots Canadian development, and also they become a good Muslim and good citizens and progressive people. So we should. This is what is my feeling about this thing. I feel very strongly that we should have a machinery where we are able to help our brother move from India, Pakistan, or wherever to be able to come in. Our parents were being helped by their brothers, by their cousins, by their friends. They were encouraged to leave India for greener pastures in Africa. So it's our duty to help others. We were helped by them. It's our duty to help others.
True.
India is a growing economy. It's an emerging market. Actually, it's not. It's already a developed market, but it's emerging very strongly, and it's a growing economy. India has got a lot of resources, and while I don't see good reason for our people to go back, economic reason, because those people who are settled in the West, alhamdulillah, they seem to be all right. But hey, there is those people who go to India. The question about making economic development is there, so perhaps they would want to go there. But talking about those people who are already in India who are settled, and mind well, in India we have community members who are far more successful than any of us from East Africa or wherever, or from the Western world. They have been far more successful all over them, in Mumbai, Bhavnagar, Ahmedabad, wherever you go. Our community, some of the members of our community are far more successful. We have a duty to those people who are forlorn, who don't have, who are in a poor position. And I think Canada and East African jamaats are playing a major role in trying to assist these people. However, one thing I must say, that assisting these people with handouts may not be the best thing to do. But the better aspect would be to help them, like they say, give them fish net so that they can go and fish. Provide them with facility for education, provide them with fees for education, rather than giving them a meal a day or something. I feel very strongly that we should look into that, and I'm sure our leadership has thought about this. This is why Zainabia education scheme was created. There is Sajadia Trust, there is Shaban Trust, there is a couple of Rahmat Bhai Trust, I believe. There is a couple of other trusts also. They are helping our brethren from India into uplifting their economic position.
No.
In 1999, just before the election, I stood for the position of presidency of Toronto Jamaat, and I got elected, and I served the community for 4 years. During that 4 years, there is 2 or 3 things that I want to mention which I feel very good about having achieved those things. One thing is we built a relation with the grassroots. Like we had shortly after 9/11, 1 month or 3 weeks after 9/11, we had the foundation laying stone for the Jaffrey Community Center, and we had the governor, who is the representative of the Queen. She was our chief guest, and we had so many, couple of ministers, couple of members of parliament, couple of MPPs, and the leaders of various communities, our neighbors, from the Jews, from the Ismailis, from the German school in our neighborhood, from every walk of life. A lot of community, our neighbors, they came and participated in our foundation ceremony. It was a very strong message that this community is here to build the country and also participate nicely with our neighbors. This has been our motto since we were at Bayview. So this was one thing. I feel good that the community has developed. We have excellent relation with our neighbors, with the people in all level of government, municipal, federal, and provincial. We have very good relation with our neighbors, with other Muslim organizations. Recently, we participated in contributing for 5 years funding to one hospital, joined by 5 Muslim organizations. Our contribution is 20% of whatever is contributed there. And Toronto Jamaat has portrayed a very good name. We may have had problems with this Eastern Madrasa issue and the graffiti that was done in the mosque. But at the same time, I want to tell you that when the graffiti was done, when it went in the newspaper, we got calls from a lot of our neighbors, both Jews and others, who showed sympathy to us, and they said, you are a good community and we are proud to be your neighbors and we are supporting you and we want to. And I wish, one family said, I wish I can come with my children to clean that graffiti for you guys. And shortly after that, 1 week after that, a group of Jewish and other community, they said, because it is your month of Ramzan, we want to come and bring food for your community and have food with you. And 50 of the different members of different community, they came for our iftar. They came to Jamaat office. They brought a lot of dates and some sweets, and they participated. But this was it's a token. It's a gesture that we built a very good relation with our neighbors, with whoever we live with. This has been. Now our minister had visited Bathurst, and his comment was this. When I told him, wherever we go in India or Africa or here, we have come to build the country. And with this small population, we have built such mammoth project. So the minister had this to say, that before I start, I want to thank Idi Amin for his loss has been our gain. You know, this is a big credential the minister gave to us. For his loss, Amin's loss has been our gain. That means he very much appreciated our participation in this. Okay, after becoming the president, we decided on embarking this project. One thing is relation with the neighbors. I think I'm very proud to say that we established excellent relation with the neighbors, both at Bayview and here also. The second thing is through this, and because of our relation, we got all the processes approved very fast. Each one of them, even at the site services and whatever, we were able to move forward very fast. At the same time, our community was in Brampton. In 4 years, from 1999 to 2003 when I left, or maybe shortly after 99, in 3 years or 3.5 years, we decided to build a mosque for our community members in Brampton. We decided, we bought the land, we made the planning, we made the zoning change, we started the construction, we raised the funds. And you know, I'm proud to say that May 2003, I vacated the seat after my term expired. And within 3 months, the project was ready for opening ceremony. So within 3.5 months, we did all this process, which you know, in Canada, it takes a long time just to do the zoning change. We had zoning change. All the process was done within 3.5 years, including construction, and we were able to say our namaz in that center within 3.5 years. It's a proud legacy that the community is seeing in Masumin Islamic Center in Brampton, that mosque. But we had 2 projects. One was this one was a small project. Jaffrey Community Center was a big project. Now Jaffrey Community Center, we have seen ups and downs or whatever. I'm proud to say that during my presidency, we initiated the project. We did the planning, we started the construction. Alhamdulillah, the leadership that came, Nazir Bhai came, Sadiq came, Razak Damani came, and they ultimately finished the project. We had our own challenges, but it said what ends well is good. Alhamdulillah, today as you go to Bathurst, you will see It is flocked by people 365 days. 360. We have school that everybody is proud. Everybody who enters in that school feels so good and he's proud. Everybody who comes to Jaffrey Community Center, anybody who comes to Jaffrey Community Center feels proud to be part of this society. Our youths feel proud to be part of this society. I don't think there is any center of this that radiates so much positive energy like our center in the whole of Ontario. It's a unique project, but it was not done by one man. It was done by an effort of hundreds of volunteers and thought process of hundreds of community members, including grassroots, including women, children, there were sports people, there were youths, there were volunteers. All of them, they participated in the thought process before we started the project and during the post-construction, even the donation. For us to spend $34 million and be debt-free. Today we are debt-free. We have an asset of $34 million. We spent $34 million in that project and $4 million in Masumin Islamic Center. $38 million is not a small task. It's a very big task. And this project, like I've been telling the community during the fundraising, okay, this is a gift we are giving to our children and our grandchildren. This project will last for 100 years. We will be history in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. But this project will continue forever, for 3, 4, and one child saved from getting astray is a price, is no, we cannot put a price to that. People who want to die to have their children get good education like Asadiq school is giving, of getting physics. Now when we have this issue about zoning at the city council, one of the ladies speaker, we had 4 speakers there who went and presented our case, and all of them mentioned one thing, that we want to tell you one thing, we want you to feel also that we are proud to be members of this community. And I'm sure those people from the people who were against our zoning, they must have felt also, okay, I wish we had a community like him. I wish we had a project like him. We have a lot of friends coming from overseas. They come here, we take them around. As soon as they land on Bathurst, they fall in love with the project. Alhamdulillah, we have to thank God millions of times for this blessing, and we have to value this project. We have to appreciate volunteers, everybody who participated. We have to appreciate, especially the people who initiated and the people who completed the project. Aliraza Rajani who played a major role in finishing this project when it was started. He should get the biggest of credits. Razak Damani, he was the president when the project got finished. He should get a lot of credit for his leadership. And every other, Nazir Ghulam said, he took the project from one place to another. Then there was Sadiq. Everybody participated and moved the community forward. It was a process through which we were passing. And Alhamdulillah, it took a long time, maybe 10, 12 years. But when it got finished, it is a jewel in the crown of our community in the world.